All right, class, this is the video for Thursday, February 25th. Um, so we're going to continue working or looking at how you can use conceptual masses to start implementing different types of curtain panel systems. But this time, instead of using a curtain system, we're going to use the divided surface stuff that we started doing last week in one of the tutorials. We're going to develop some more of that as we go forward. Um, it's important to note that this kind of curtain system is not inside of the conceptual mass. So the curtain system that we applied to this face is part of the architecture model that's in this object, whereas everything else that we're going to be doing today is all built into conceptual masses. So there's a big kind of distinction there as we start modeling, and you're going to want to pay attention to that because of the kinds of geometry that have to stay inside a conceptual mass realm. It's sort of like you're modeling in Rhino and then referencing things inside of Revit. So conceptual masses, again, don't always like to talk to the architecture part of Revit as cleanly as we might want them to. So some of this is a bit hacky, some of this is a bit convoluted as you start to add in some detail. And what we're really building towards is how to model a diagrid structure across the face of your conceptual mass. So I'm going to get rid of this curtain system, but just wanted to start off by talking about it here. I'm just going to go up to undo. Come back to my original form. So you'll want some kind of conceptual mass with a kind of a sort of twisted face to it. So I'm going to hit X-ray again here and grab a couple of points just to twist this face that we're going to be working on as a kind of example. So the system here for how we employ this is basically done inside of your conceptual mass. If I come in here and select my conceptual mass and hit edit in place, and I need to when you're maneuvering points using the X-ray tool here that allows you to grab, you need to make sure you get the X-ray turned off before you start editing this, or it'll get stuck. So now what we want to do is actually select one of the faces. So I'm going to tab until I get the curved face here of my mass, and I'm still inside of the conceptual mass. You can see I haven't locked it up here. I'm going to hit divide surface. This is similar to what we did on Thursday. When I select this divide surface, you can see here it says no pattern. And I was having issues visualizing this before, but this kind of patterning allows you to do all kinds of different patterns, say hexagonal. And if I change the number of panels in this, you can see how it sort of affects the geometry, and I can get really kind of extreme pieces, or I can, I can start kind of playing with the proportions based on the size of my panel and get these, closer to more of a honeycomb kind of gesture. Again, down here, the panels, especially if I go back a little bit, when the panels have a longer edge, they're going to break free from the actual conceptual mass. It's making straight components along here, whereas it has to in order to keep each of these different faces planar. So what it's trying to do is just keep each face planar in the system. So there's a variety of different pieces you can use here. Rhomboids. Rectangle. So rhomboid is really just a kind of a rotated rectangle. But you can see how you can also individually rotate these in different directions. If I put like 5 and -5 in here and hit apply, you can see how the grid will actually kind of rotate across the surface. And again, when I get a long edge along here, it breaks free from the actual geometry of the conceptual mass. All these lines get used as reference points for a curtain panel that we're going to do, a custom curtain panel that we're going to deploy. What I want to start off with is using the triangular flat component here. I'm going to take these rotations off so that it's squared up to the face again. Put a flat. So once I've got this applied on here, I'm going to hit Finish Mass, and you can see how it just leaves that grid as something I can reference when I come back. Now what I want to do is go to View, and I'm going to go make the reference mass that'll get deployed over the face of this. Well, in actuality, much like with the curtain panel system, we're going to need to make a profile first that we can use as a reference, and from that we'll use we'll employ that into another conceptual mass that we'll use as our panel that'll get deployed across the entire surface. So much like the profile goes into the mullion, goes into the curtain wall, with this tool we're going to do a profile that goes into a conceptual mass that goes into that goes onto this divided surface, all of them inside of the conceptual mass. So I'm under View and User Interface, and I'm going to go pop back out to recent files. And I want to do a new conceptual mass, and I'm going to do curtain panel pattern based. I want to get this opened up. So this is the same tool that we had open a week ago Thursday. When you select this, you can see by default there's a grid here. We've got a triangle that we're working with now. If I select the grid in the background, you can see over here that it pops up with a rectangular reference. And when I look at the drop down, there's all of the exact same references that you had from the other tool, from the divided surface tool. So these two things go together hand in hand, right? So the curtain panel pattern-based conceptual mass works hand in hand with the divided surf of a conceptual mass. And so the reference points, the 4 reference points that you see here, would reference a traditional grid, and they're going to get deployed across, just like we did last Thursday. So here, if I go to triangular flat, you can see what it does is that it references now 1, 2, 3 points for a triangle instead of the 4 points for the grid. You can see how it's still got an underlying big grid across the surface, but the points are now all referenced as triangular side, or the 3 sides of the triangle. So before we do this, we actually want to make the profile. Instead, on Thursday we did the profile right here inside of the conceptual mass. This time I want to do it as a separate file so that we can reference it again later on and make a duplicate of it. So I'm going to go back out to View and User Interface and Recent Files, and go to the new conceptual mass, and I want to actually go here inside the conceptual mass folder and find a base conceptual mass. So this is just a really simple conceptual mass family. And all I'm going to do in this instance is just come in here in the plan view and draw a mullion profile. So I'm going to go ahead and draw along the center line, so I've got a kind of reference grid, and I'll just do a 2" by I want to just do a 2" by 4" mullion here. So you could start off with a rectangle and then adjust it. So if I take this one and grab the edges, I can make a dimension line along here. You can see the sizing of these are way too big to start with. I'm going to tab to get the edge, and then make that 2 inches, and then with that edge, make that 8 inches. And get this a little down. Oops. Now what happened to my dimension line? select it, and then I can say this be 8 inches. There we go. I'm going to drag this over so that it's centered on the grid. Probably easier just to draw this rather than just to draw this as a rectangle, a series of lines with the center line, rather than trying to do it this way. So I could again put 3 dimensions on here. Scale is way off, so I'm going to change it back to like 1.5 inches equal to foot. And I could hit equal here. Get those set at 4 inches. So I've got this profile squared up. I'm just going to hit save and do 2 by 8 rectangle. Desktop, hit save, load it into my project. I'm loading this into the conceptual mass that I opened, or excuse me, the curtain panel pattern based mass that I opened, which I think is probably family 7. And so we're back in here now. As we did last Thursday, I'm going to put a point in the middle of snapping it to the middle of one of these reference lines. When I select it, you can see the reference plane. We're going to want to see those reference planes all the time. So over here under graphics, I'm going to switch it over to always. And now under create, I'm going to go to create and component. And you can see by default that actually brought in my 2 by 8 rectangle. And it'll snap right to that point or to the plane. And actually the plane is what we want to make sure and reference it to, because then we're going to need to rotate it. And I'm going to use the snaps here to rotate it 90 degrees so it's sitting like a mullion would along this rectangle. And now we'll select the reference lines just as we did last Thursday, and the profile, and hit create form. And you can see how this basically brings in the entire system, or the entire mullion, and it does give us nice clean joints because it's going all the way around those reference lines. So the other thing we can do with this is I'll hit hide, select it and hit the sunglasses and hit hide element. If I come back and select just the reference lines and hit make mass, I'm gonna just make a piece of glazing to sit in here, and I want it to be, let's just call it 1/4 inch thick. And the material that we want for this mass, so if I get it selected, I can come over here to materials and finishes and hit the ... and I'll need to add a material parameter. I'm going to call it glass. Say OK. OK. We've done this once before. Now if I come into the material, or if I come up to the properties for this object, I can hit the ... here and come in and find glass. Say OK and OK, and now I've got some transparency applied to it. And then I'll hit reset temporary hide. So now I've got a piece of glass and the mullion sitting in there, and the glass should be on center roughly with the mullion. And obviously this doesn't have the same kind of detail that you would get with the typical mullion systems, but again, it's about helping you visualize some of the more complex kinds of geometry that you're working with. So once we've got this done, we're going to hit save, and we want to call this flat triangle with glass, and save that out and load it into our original project. So I'll hit project 2. I think. There we go. So sometimes with the curtain walls, you've just got to, as with last Thursday, sometimes you need to hit the letters V and G back to back to open up your visibility graphics. Especially if you're updating this, for instance, you can see here that my conceptual masses are turned off. It's just a glitch that seems to work to help refresh the mass when you're working with them, and especially when you're working with families that are referenced onto the mass. So now I'll go back into Edit in Place, and so I'm opening up that conceptual mass. I'm going to adjust the conceptual mass. All of this geometry is inside of your conceptual mass. So you got to remember that all of these things are kind of referencing inside, and they're all just geometry. Like none of them have any of the smart tectonics that the traditional curtain wall systems have. So this is really about giving you some flexibility in terms of representing geometry, but not necessarily giving you a lot of control in terms of like real BIM information. So when I hit the drop-down menu for triangular flat, you can see that the panel that I just made, the conceptual mass that I made, the curtain panel pattern-based conceptual mass that I just made is referenced in this list now. Under triangular flat options, I have this flat triangle option. It's going to start thinking pretty hard, and then it's going to deploy these triangles with the glazing pattern across my whole system, hopefully. I'm going to pause this so you guys don't have to sit through it. So here we are with the system deployed across the face. You can see it's got a couple of glitches, which is not all that rare with these sorts of things. And you can also see that here at the joint detail, things are a little bit messy. And depending upon the size of your panel system, it could be really messy. So if I bring it back out to say like 10 by 8, you could imagine using a system like this to help you start to visualize an actual diagrid system. So it looks like I need fewer in the vertical. Let's go to like 4. So this starts to look maybe a little bit closer to the kind of system that, say, Lord Norman Foster deployed on the Hearst Tower in New York. I'm going to flip this so that these are at 10 and these are at 4. And here you start to see more of a grid shape. And obviously at this scale, the elements, especially if you're trying to represent a sort of diagrid form, the elements need to change. So what we would do to do that would be to go back in and go all the way back to our profile. So I'm going to go back to our 2D 2x8 rectangle, which again is just a conceptual mass drawing. And I'm going to change these dimensions. So let's make this thing... Actually, I think the easiest way to do this might be to start offsetting the lines that we've got so that we stay on center here. So if I'm going to use this not as a mullion but as a structural member, say in a diagrid representation, and again, we'll look at a couple of different ways to do diagrids like this. This is the simplest one to quickly start doing it. I'm going to go ahead and offset this like 12 inches. Offset these lines 12 inches so that we're maybe get rid of these dimensions. Doesn't seem to want to let me reference that. That's okay. We're just going to come off, I'll come off, say 5 inches this way. I just want to draw 5 inches. And then we'll go up. I think I want to turn my 3D snapping off. That was probably what was causing some of the problems with my offsets. Let's try the offset again. Oh, Revit. Alright, let's just draw this out. So we'll go 12 inches that way, 12 inches. Let's see. For some reason, that's no longer a 1 inch line there. I'm just going to start back from the center. And let's go, we're just going to make a 12 by 24 inch structural member. So 2 foot, 12, back around. And again, these profiles need to be perfectly closed objects. So this time I'll hit save. I didn't change the name, it's still called 2x8, but you guys get the idea. And we need to go in here to our flat triangle with glass and hit OK. And I want to overwrite the existing version. For some reason it's trying to place it. We want to go to flat triangle with glass. There you can see my mullion is much bigger. I'm going to hide this. I want to get rid of the glass because now I'm just using this as if I'm using this as a diagrid representation, the glazing system would have to be different. So I'm tabbing through to delete those, the glass element, and then I'll hit reset. I'll hit save for this one and hit load into project, and this one will go into project 2, overwrite the existing version. And again, sometimes it doesn't pop up. The key thing here is to hit VG, come back out, check or uncheck mass, and that should update it. And so now you've got these kind of larger elements that you can use to help start representing that diagrid system. And again, we'll continue to work on this. The next thing we're gonna do is to get in here and try to clean these up so that we don't get these kind of shards coming through. And we'll do that by putting a joint or some kind of detail at the corner.